Alright, so where we left off, distribution of shape. But now what we're going to do is solidify the character and the style of our character. You might need to know what you're creating your character for. I'm going to go for more of a cartoony style of character, rather than like more of a, I guess like a video game style. I always think of video game style characters as what type of video game, right? There are realistic video games, there are non-realistic video games, there are more cartoony looking video games. I like to think of it like, okay, well, what kind of, video game or what kind of property, what kind of animation am I going to create this character for? Is it going to be for a children's book? Does it have to have certain things associated with it? And I haven't actually styled her clothes or whatever because it was just coming directly from the silhouette. I decided that I want there to be like kind of puffy like look to this. I don't know why, but I wanted like some kind of puffy look. And I wonder if that's something that comes to me because I want to even out the distribution of weight between her afro puff at the top and then make sure that that distribution is kind of working. I also don't want her to be too thin. I've decided by now that I want it to be a Red Riding Hood type of situation. So we'll probably give her a hoodie. And here I am playing around with like, well, what happens if I black out her legs and give her leggings? And then I'm kind of making some ideas on top of ideas. So I'm gonna give her a hoodie. And this is where I mean, and I say this a lot in my classes is, don't be precious with your drawings. You're gonna make a lot of drawings, okay? So just get it done. Try and get what's in your mind on paper. So I feel like that kind of level of puffiness is working out. And I'm trying to figure out how big I want her little puff to be. And I want it to be kind of large and kind of comedic. So not to take it too seriously. It's not realistic. Well, I guess you could do this with maybe a lot of extensions, but I don't know. To me, it's not realistic. I don't have that level of hair. But when you're approaching hair, you want to simplify it, right? So even if you did kind of long hair, you want to simplify it and then also think about how it's going to lay on the head or break into it. Like when I'm making this afro puff kind of thing, I'm kind of breaking into the figure. If I wanted to do more realistic one, I would just go ahead and add more kind of breaks, but I'm thinking more about the shape of the hair rather than the actual like line by line. When you kind of create kind of a liney looking hair, it doesn't seem to look beautiful. You want to simplify it. I always think about like, waterfalls. Like I'm not going to draw every drop of water. I want to kind of say, okay, this is a waterfall and I'm getting to the point. How many lines will it take for me to make it look like what I want it to look like or represent? All right, so another thing to think about is the type of style that you want. A lot of people get caught up on style. They're like, oh, my style this and my style that. But to be frank, you might need to cultivate multiple styles. You might be working on projects that need you to draw in an anime style. You might have to draw in a very simple kind of style. So I think when it comes to finding your own style, I think that it'll happen naturally through exploration of different styles. And that's kind of how you get your own kind of personal trademark. But you should maybe test a lot of different styles out and your ability to draw or draft in multiple styles. And here I am deciding about like, okay, so it's like, am I using anime eyes? Am I using other styles of eyes? And then also simplification of the ear is huge. I have some go-tos, and I've seen them in other animations, and I go, oh yeah, like I want to draw ears like that, and there'll be something as simple as like drawing an ear with a backwards 3 in it. Or when it gets to noses, when you're drawing noses, that's just, I mean, to be honest, you have to really just find the form of the nose. And I think that, through practice and knowing the nose's anatomy, as well as going through finding some other styles of noses and how people draw them, you might find one. So it's like you're like nostril, no nostril, how are you going to do it? But for the most part, 3/4 view is going to be the easiest to draw, or at least the most appealing to look at, because you're seeing both sides of the face at the same time, and it seems pretty active. So you'll see probably a lot of artists drawing in that style, that 3/4 pose. And then here I'm trying to figure out how I want her knees to go. And I'm going to draw her kind of like in a forward standing pose, but I want a little bit of her personality to peek through. And as you saw, I just laid out some really basic shapes, and now I'm cutting into those shapes. So it helps create a solid form. So lines by themselves, as you can see in the picture that I drew previously, those are just like lines by themselves, not a lot of shape to them, and it makes for a little squishy. And it's hard for me to create the consistency of the form, but when I actually get those shapes down and then I curve like the clothing around the form, it helps with how the character looks and kind of keeping that solid form. And then notice that I'm trying to kind of go in a little bit. I'm just kind of varying the line work on her sleeves so it goes in and out. And that's just me trying to communicate, okay, she has an arm inside it and it's not just cylinders. There's a heavier half to this. There's an upper half to this. And because I'm covering up her shoulders with the hoodie, I want to be able to kind of figure out that part of her anatomy as well. So I'm using kind of like a shading to figure out what the inside is versus the outside. So it's not necessarily good, shading like, oh yeah, like I'm thinking about the sun. Well, I kind of am. I'm thinking about where the light shines and where it doesn't. It's also kind of seen on her knee area where I darkened the lower half of her knees with the side of the pencil to kind of show that there's a differentiation in weight. I could probably do the same thing with underneath her skirt, but I haven't gotten to the skirt yet. I drew those little arrows that are pointing inward because I wanted to remind myself that I want her to become just a wee bit kind of knock-kneed. Now I'm going back and I'm saying, okay, like, how are her boots? Her boots are a little bit different than what I've drawn. They're going low, they're going high. And I think right now there's just not a good distribution of weight in this drawing. Like, she's looking top heavy, but I want there to be a same kind of distribution even below. So I need a post-it note for that, probably. Oh yeah. So the point here I'm making is 3 to 5, which means if you can simplify things into like 3 to 5 panels or 3 to 5 little bumps, it's easier to kind of keep track of things. So I want her skirt to be kind of like a lifesaver, like the candy. So I want it to be like round yet bouncy, like it's almost like a gummy I'm thinking about when I'm kind of getting this. And I'm simplifying kind of the pleated skirt bit. And the way you can do that, there's a lot of different ways of drawing pleats. But you may want to think about what's showing. Is it the inside or the outside of the pleats? How loose the pleats are, what material the skirt is made out of. But I'm just cartooning it. But here's some variations that I'm kind of drawing, what angle they are. Something to think about. And then I'm thinking, well, maybe it's not really necessarily a pleat. It's going to be more of a pattern, which is, in the end, what I've gone for. And now I'm going to see if I can fix the distribution of weight with these bucket-like rain boots. Like, are they going to be high-low boots where you can see the inside quite a bit? I kind of like those. That's that kind of feeling, but let's keep going. And this is what I do a lot of the times. I'll just take a sticky note and then draw on top. I learned that in storyboarding, and it has carried me through to other animation type of things. Because it's just so easy to kind of like, it's almost like paper dolls, like trying on an idea. And then if you get them, you can get them pretty cheaply. And then I think I'm starting to like these boots because they have the same evenness, or they're kind of creating the same weight. And it has the same level of detail. So the things that are kind of happening above are also happening below. All right, so that is how I want to solidify her. Give her a ground plane and make sure that she looks nice and balanced. Perfect. Thanks for watching.